Hey, good evening, folks. It is Thursday night. It's not 6:30. It's actually 8 o'clock. We got a
The
special
late
time slot
edition.
tonight.
Yes,
The
the
late
late
edition.
edition.
That's right. That's right. And welcome everybody. It's the Fat Thor podcast on a regular Thursday night. I'm back. Sorry we missed last week. Rick had a show, and then I had surgery for this bad boy, and just couldn't pull it off. I just felt horrible. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad the guest that we have is with us because I'm really excited about this show. We were supposed to do this in October. Schedules didn't line up, but he came back and is on the show tonight. And it's going to be about paranormal still and exorcism. And I'm Andy Gunnan. And
I'm Rick Wayne.
sorry, I just blew right through our intro names. I'm just excited
Yeah.
about getting the show. He's got a tight schedule. Let's bring him in all the way from Kentucky. We've got Bishop James Long. Welcome to the show, James.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. We're glad we could, get you on here, and thank you for squeezing us in. I know you've got a tight schedule tonight. You've only got about 45 minutes to give us, but we really do appreciate it. So we're just going to kind of jump into some of the questions and some of the topics that we were going to discuss with you, which is about possessions, paranormal, spirits, those kind of things. Can you give us a little bit of your background
Sure.
To kind of introduce yourself and just go from there?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a priest when I was 5. I began studying books on demonology when I was 9, back in the card catalog days in the library. And I would read as much as I possibly could. While my friends were playing G.I. Joes, I was the nerd in the library, literally reading every book that I could find on demonology. I don't know why. It just became an obsession. I had to learn as much as I can. And literally 5 years old, I remember telling my mom said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I remember pointing at the priest and said, "I want to do what he does." And I just knew at an early age. So my calling to the priesthood continued to grow, and I continued to read as much as I could on demonology. That for my entire, even now today, I constantly read. And so I decided to join the Roman Catholic priesthood, or the seminary, to study for the priesthood. I studied for 6 years, was a year and a half away from being ordained, but chose to join the old Catholic Church because of several personal issues, and I've talked to them about them before. I believe in women ordination. I believe in LGBTQ rights, and I believe that that people who are LGBTQ should be allowed to be married. And so, for me, I was not going to be a hypocrite and be a liar and preach in the pulpit and have a nice, fancy life with a nice salary and a house given to me and a car and all this. All that would have been great, but I also would have been a hypocrite. And so I said, no, we're not going there. So I joined the United States Old Catholic Church. I was trained by an exorcist. I know the rite quite well. And when I went public over 20 years ago in the paranormal, I didn't want to go public because I'm actually an extreme introvert, extreme INFJ on the Myers-Briggs. If you know anything about personality types, I'm extreme INFJ. I could literally stay in my study and be in here and never go out of my home and read. And so, but that's me.
Right.
But people kept saying, James, there's no clergy, there's no Catholic clergy helping the paranormal community. At that time, there were none. 20 years ago, there were no Catholic clergy helping the paranormal community, except the only one was Father Andrew Calder, and he was an Episcopalian. And he was from a schismatic part. He wasn't from the main church. He was from an offshoot. And he did not want to perform exorcisms. He had no desire. So I went public, and it was crazy. Then you had offers from Ghost Adventures and Bobby Mackey's and the History Channel, National Geographic, the Booth Brothers. I mean, it was crazy. And I was thinking, what in the world's wrong with these people? I mean, I'm just talking about demonology, but the reason is they grabbed because there was nobody there in the paranormal community. So I've done a lot of television shows, but I've never been paid, and I never will be paid because I have to maintain 100% focus and not allow greed to creep in, because even as a human being, so I've taken a vow of poverty as a Benedictine, so that never happens. And I've never charged. I've never charged one penny for any of the services that I do. I have a homeless ministry that I've been doing for 35 years. I have a single moms ministry that I help single moms who left an abusive relationship, who need help in the interim time. And they apply for government assistance. And as of today, I've done 29 exorcisms, documented exorcisms on individuals who were validly possessed.
Wow.
And now, I have a doctorate in ministry and a master's of education, master's of business, and a master's of divinity.
When you perform any of these exorcisms, have you ever been scared doing them? Because I
Yes.
think when we think of exorcisms, obviously we think of the William Blatty book and the movie,
Yep.
The Exorcist. So of course that's a super frightening movie to this day, and so that's what I've always wondered. Like if I had the chance to ask somebody that, because
Mhm.
I know I would be.
Well, I'll just say this. I studied at 9 years old, began studying at 9, and I've studied demonology now for 41 years. So you can do the math of how old I am. And I will tell you this, and I've done 29 exorcisms, and this is in 20 years. And this is how many emails that I have in 2 days.
Wow.
2 days.
Wow. Almost 3,000.
And that's in 2 days. And that's in people asking for spiritual help. There is a lot of people asking for demonology and possession. Yes. There was one time I was scared. I was terrified. And that was my first time that I did an exorcism. I was the assistant. I was not the chief exorcist. And I remember going up. Well, it was almost very eerie, similar to the Exorcist movie. We went upstairs, that we began to do the Litany of the Saints, which is the prayer that we're supposed to do. And we go in, and it was a girl. And we began the rite. She was not in transient possessed at that time. So we began to do the ritual. She was laying down. I checked her eyelids and her eyes. She was completely catatonic, rigid, very rigid, and her eyes were a solid black. There was nothing but blackness, solid black. And I had studied for all these years, and I read some of the greatest theologians, and was trained by an actual exorcist from the church. But until you are there, and you see, and I could see, and I couldn't move. I could not. I literally could see my own reflection in her eyes. And the only way I could describe it is it was very much like I was the prey, and this was predatorial. I was looking in the eyes of a predator, and that's the only. Yes, there's no emotion. There's only void of any type of empathy, of compassion. It was death. It was just complete, and I couldn't move. And so the exorcist grabbed me by my collar. He did a simple ritual on me, a blessing on me, and we began the ritual. Since then, I have learned, techniques, obviously, thank God, but I was not prepared for that. That was probably the most frightening experience as far as personal that I have. That was it.
Right. Now, let me ask this. How long did it take you, or what was the journey, of course, from that to where you are now, having performed 29, I guess, as the chief exorcist? I mean, what was that path, and how many years, and what did that take to get there? And, that's about,
the exorcisms that I have performed certainly have taken a toll. And, you can read as much as you want, and that's fine that you have the knowledge of books, but until you actually experience it, you have no idea. You have no clue. And so you've gone through the process, and then with the United States Old Catholic Church, I am now the chief exorcist that I serve for the church. And what I do is for the seminarians who have a calling to that ministry. First, they're required to focus only on their priesthood studies. And then after that, once they are ordained, 6 months after they're ordained to the priesthood, if they have a calling to serve this ministry, then the Archbishop and I will speak, and I will determine whether or not I'm going to train them.
Right.
Because this takes a great deal of training. And even so, even like I said, even though you have all the training, I had some of the best training in the world, but still that meant that when you actually are in the presence of a demonic, everything that you've learned, unless you become fearless of the predator, then you could easily become the prey.
Right. Oh, interesting. Rick, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, like, after performing even the first one, or even all the way to 28 and 29. Do you ever have trouble sleeping at night, or have weird messed up dreams and things like that, where while you're thinking about you experience this so often?
I do.
It's way more than I would imagine.
Yeah, it's very, very common for exorcists to have PTSD, and so with us, the United States Old Catholic Church, thank God we have now a mental health therapist who helps us, and but you got to understand. every exorcist will take a toll on you. And I sleep with a large industrial fan in my room. and I have to, because if I don't, then I'll hear screams outside my window. And so I have insomnia, and there are many times I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I can't go to sleep. And so there are times I'm up 24 hours a day.
Right.
So yeah, this at one point, this was taking such a toll on me that I was 420 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
I was dying. And what was scary part about it is I was eating, a turkey sandwich, and I don't drink soda. I don't like the sweets. I don't like a whole lot of sweets. But I don't drink. There's no sodas at all. It's all water and turkey. And I was 420 pounds. So I had to have the weight loss surgery and I took some time off from the ministry to focus on my health, because I could not continue doing the ministry with my health. Because when I did Exorcism Live at the Exorcist house on the Travel Channel, that's when I was at 420 pounds. And I knew then that, okay, no more. It's time to take a year off and focus on my health before I take on any type of case.
Well, let me ask you this. We got some folks asking a couple of questions, so we'll let them chime in, as well as, I guess this tops kind of leads in what I was going to ask you. It says, do you believe spirits haunt houses or just possess people? And the segue of mine kind of like backs up to this. How do you identify possessions in the stage, and how do you, go in and go, okay, this person is possessed, or no, this person is not?
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely believe that spirits can infest or haunt homes. Now, here's the difference. There is a difference between the solemn rite of exorcism and the minor rite of exorcism. The solemn rite of exorcism is performed on an individual who is actually validly possessed. Now, the minor rite of exorcism is an exorcism that's performed on a demonic entity or malevolent spirit that has infested itself within the home. So the exorcism is not performed on a house. That you can't exorcise a house. You only exorcise a demonic spirit or malevolent spirit. You can bless the home, and that's what we do during the minor rite of exorcism. So when you have infestation, okay, so we'll go through the stages very quickly. Many people know infestation, oppression, possession, but actually there's a lot more to that. It's not so simple. There are two types of demonic activity. There's extraordinary demonic activity and ordinary demonic activity. Gotcha. And ordinary demonic activity is when the demonic entity is right there on your shoulder saying, "Oh, come on, you can have one more drink before you drive. It's okay if you have a relationship outside of your marriage. That's okay. It's okay to spend that your whole entire check at gambling. So it's the 7 deadly sins. It's manipulating the weaknesses, and that's ordinary demonic activity that many of us sometimes fall into, many of us, because we're human.
Right.
Now, extraordinary demonic activity actually has 4 stages. You have demonic infestation, is when the demonic has infested itself within the home. You're a paranormal investigator. You go out and you say, come on, demon, do something to me. I dare you to do something to me. And now it's attached itself to you. You brought it home. Now you have an infestation. It could have also been a pre-existing infestation before you moved in.
Right.
And then you have what's called demonic oppression. And demonic oppression is when it begins to physically attack you. Now, this is important to understand because when I'm talking about physically attacking you, it's breaking down your will to the point where you cannot sleep. You're constantly being attacked. You're being bit. You're being scratched. You're hearing noises. It is breaking. Imagine for a second, if you've ever been sleep deprived. Now, imagine to the point where you're so sleep deprived where your body just collapses. Not just, oh, thank God I'm so tired. No, it literally collapses, but you still can't sleep because the demonic keeps attacking you. That's breaking down your will to the point where you have no more energy. You can't fight. And then demonic obsession is when it begins to attack the intellect. Hey, you're stupid. Nobody loves you. Right. Go ahead and get away from everybody. No, just it isolates you. You think you're going crazy. You're seeing things, you're hearing things. That's breaking down the intellect. So once the intellect and the will have been broken down and the body can no longer fight because it is sick, it is exhausted, then you have possession. So
how do you someone who's a schizophrenic, how do you distinguish that between or a demon possession?
That's a great question. And that's why we are very strict on our policy. Number one, let's say someone comes to me and says, Bishop Long, I have a demon attached to me and I need an exorcism. Fine. Then the very first thing they're going to do is speak to our mental health therapist. The mental health, she's a licensed therapist. She actually deals with individuals who have mental health issues, such as schizophrenia. So they will. What kind of dog do you have? I love dogs. Oh, Chihuahua.
I was like, something's coming to get me. I was so intense. I was like, oh.
Well, see, that's why Chihuahuas don't play around.
No, all Chihuahuas
he don't play. He's just laying behind me the whole time sleeping, and then I guess my daughter just come in and. Of course, that's our alarm system. So.
I love dogs. I love animals. So that's okay. That's okay. They can interrupt us anytime they want.
I'm just glad it scared Andy. That was the thing right there. That was funny.
I think it probably scared a lot of people. Probably when I was getting it. So all of a sudden, the Satan dog started.
Chris Berger said the demon possessed dog scared the crap out of me too.
Yeah. It'll certainly wake you up. And who said? See, let me tell you, little Chihuahuas don't play. They do not play.
They don't.
Well, okay, so let's. First of all, they have to speak to a mental health therapist, and we have to make sure we have to rule out any type of. And this is really crucial because this will really infuriates me with people playing Exorcist. It just and this is, I'm telling you, this is a major epidemic in the paranormal community. This is a major issue. Okay. Because there are far too many people playing Exorcist, and they're going to end up killing somebody, and then they're going to be put up on manslaughter charges because they have no idea what they're doing. Because what infuriates me is they don't have the psychological evaluations done. You perform an exorcism on someone with dissociative identity disorder, which is multiple personality. You create another personality. You perform an exorcism on someone who is paranoid schizophrenic. You put them in a manic state, and they could commit suicide. So this is something that just absolutely infuriates me when people do that. But we have to make sure this person is stable. So our mental health therapist will speak to them. If she says, Bishop Long, I am really not catching anything that warns me or throw red flags up, then we require them to have a psychological evaluations performed by a licensed psychiatrist. It is non-negotiable. And I must have the ability to speak to that psychiatrist to determine whether or not performing this ritual could do long-term damage to the person's psyche. So once all that has been clear, then I need to know their medication. I need to know their medical history. And after all that's done, we have a team dispatched gathering all the evidence. They bring it to Rich Valdez, who is our demonologist, religious demonologist for the church. And then he gathers all this and he says, okay, Bishop, the person passed the set test. There's nothing wrong with it. We clearly have something going on. This needs your attention. When Rich says that to me, then I pay attention because Rich knows what he's doing. And so that's when I get involved. And I go there to the home and I am doing things. An exorcist will do things that the person has no idea what we're doing. We're testing to force the demonic to present itself. So understand that there's two types of possession. There is transient possession, where the demonic will enter the body and leave at will. And then there's perfect possession, where there's constant stage of possession. And the majority of possession cases that I have worked have been transient possessions, where we would go in, the person's not in a state at that time, possessed state, and I will purposely do things. I begin the ritual to force the entity to enter the body, and then we begin the rite. Wow. And understand, if there's no demonic present, so even after everything has been done, and then I go in and I'm doing the rituals, I'm doing the things that the individual has no idea what I'm doing. I'm forcing if the entity is not forced, if there's possession does not take place, the ritual does not occur. The ritual only occurs once possession is actually in front of the exorcist. Now I can do a deliverance prayer, which that's what I would do. So I begin to do simple testing to force the entity manifest. And then if nothing happens, I will do a deliverance prayer to force the entity to come forward. And then that's when we do the solemn rite. Wow. Well, that definitely.
Have you ever been in a situation where, like, at the end, everything is like all wrapped up and good, and then the person, did they remember, experience the same thing that you had to experience, or they have any, recollection of it whatsoever? Or
No, their recollection is very, very limited. They can remember certain things, voices when they remember what they went through with the demonic oppression, demonic obsession part. They will remember the figures, the ghastly figures they've seen, the voices that they heard. But actually, when they go under the stage of possession, it's almost very much like a comatose state. They have no memory whatsoever. It's like they really truly go into it's like a coma, and they sleep, right. Because the demonic has taken over the body.
Right. Well, yeah. I've got a question here from one of our listeners. We've got people racking up tonight, all the questions. So we're definitely on some good topics here with folks that are definitely interested. So one of the folks said, out of all your cases, has there been a repeated series of events that led to it, Ouija boards or other things, messing with occult things or stuff like that? So that's the question.
Absolutely, 1,000,000%, guys. People, I don't understand. Look, I don't get paid for this. How much do you guys pay me to go doing this interview?
Zero.
Good night, everybody.
Seriously, folks. I'm telling you,
$0.
I don't get paid for this ministry. I have a doctorate in ministry and 3 masters. If I didn't know that this stuff existed, I'd be doing something else with my time.
Right.
And I spend between 60 to 70 hours a week on this ministry. So I'm telling you, yes, that's a great question. And there have been many cases where someone would play with the Ouija board and they didn't really know what they were doing. They were just playing around. That's an invitation. And once that invitation has occurred, then all hell breaks loose. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had to go into a home and perform the minor rite of exorcism because the Ouija board look, the Ouija board is nothing magical. I can use this phone right here. This phone is this could absolutely be a portal. The Ouija board is a portal. So we have apps. We have a lot of paranormal apps on this. And so you can, anything that you use to communicate with the spirit world is a portal. You're opening up a portal. That's a communication basis. Now, people say, well, I can surround myself with white light. Well, congratulations. But the demonic entity doesn't care what you do. They doesn't care if you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't on one hand say, well, I'm going to do the invitation, but I'm going to surround myself with light and nothing's going to happen to me. It doesn't work that way because the scripture also says, thou shalt not put the Lord your God to test. Right. And that's exactly what you're doing. You can't surround yourself with white light and then invite whatever spirit on the opposite side to come forward and say, but no demonic entity may come through. Let me give you a little hint. The demonic entity doesn't care what you say. They violate your free will. So you can say all day long, you can't come through, and they will say, watch me.
Right. It's like buying a gun and a bulletproof vest and going outside and going, all right, let's see if this sucker works.
Exactly. That's right. That's exactly right. That's a good way to put it. I'm telling you guys, it's and I've heard people say, well, they'll bless the board before they do it. Look, it doesn't work that way. It simply does not. And as I said, the demonic or malevolent spirits could care less how much blessings you've done over a board. If they're going to come through, they're going to come through because the invitation has been done. We tell kids not to talk to strangers all the time, but paranormal investigators do it constantly.
Trying to squeeze calories out of it's like trying to squeeze calories out of a Big Mac.
Right.
You're not going to ring, click, blessing a Ouija board.
That's right.
Well, Lee Wesley asked this, and I think we kind of answered part of her question. She asked, is there a certain type of person more prone to being possessed? Is an entity picking out a person to possess, or just crappy luck? Or like you said, they've just invited, or, I guess she's also, and my question double is this, Christian versus non-Christian, or believer versus non-believer kind of thing.
I've had an atheist who had a family member who was possessed, and they're no longer an atheist. They always believed that this kind of stuff was this nonsense. It was Hollywood until they actually went through it. Let me just say this. I have many friends in many different walks of faith, and the closer you get to God, the harder the devil works against you. Right. So if you're showing love and compassion to everyone that you come and you meet and you help, and you're the type of person that's always there to help, whether you're an atheist or not, you're growing closer to God by your mere compassion towards others. And so, but the invitation, once the invitation is there, now it can be done by several ways. So you move into a home that has a demonic infestation already there. Or you can be a paranormal investigator. You can open yourself up through invitation. Or people can place curses. Santeria is a very terrible, I don't care what anyone says. I'm not going to argue with people. I had one of the worst cases I have ever worked in my entire life, incubus case. And that was all through Santeria. So no one better ever tell me, oh, Santeria is not that bad. Yes, it is that bad. It's a horrible, horrible thing. And what they did to this woman, she was 68 years old, and what she went through was, it was god awful. She went through is what true nightmares are made. I'm telling you, what that woman.
Well, and that goes to another question. So, who else had it here that was asking about, the movie The Exorcist, how close to that is real versus not real possessions and exorcism, and do they go to that level, and can they go to that level?
Yes, and actually, the pea soup is actually very valid. However, and here's why: when a person is possessed, the demonic doesn't want any type of substance or life to enter the body like food or water. So if you try to give them food or water, they will become violently ill. They will regurgitate. And the number one concern for someone actually expiring during an exorcism is malnutrition, dehydration. And so I have a medical team that's actually there monitoring the vitals of the person possessed during an exorcism. And we have to be very careful making sure that the person is able to have IV drips, especially if they become violently ill. And so that does happen often. And so we have to be careful with that. So with the Exorcist movie, with the levitation, with the scar, I have actually seen scarring where I would begin the ritual. I would use holy water. Those are so-called sacramentals of the church. We use holy water, incense, oil, and horrible third-degree burns would appear on the body, and these god-awful markings would just all over it. So you use the holy water, and you would see the burns appear on this body. I have personally seen that. So that does occur. Of course, there's some, I guess some freedom, creative freedom. But the Exorcism of Emily Rose, I actually have the case files, and I have the sound bites. Many of the sound bites during an exorcism. There's ridiculous sound bites on YouTube that are fraudulent, but I actually have the sound bites. And the Exorcism of Emily Rose was very, very similar to what was testified in court by the two priests. What she endured was god awful.
Right. Now, obviously, Ed and Lorraine Warren did a lot of studying and of the paranormal and things like that. What is your position with Ed and Lorraine Warren's work, their studies, and things like that? And obviously some of their cases, like the Amityville, that correlate with that. What is your position on that or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know there's a lot. I've been in the paranormal actually a public figure for over 20 years, and I get it. I know that there's a lot of people who are not big fans of Ed and Lorraine, and even arguing that the cases were fraudulent and that didn't happen. Here's what I'm going to say about Ed and Lorraine. I've had the opportunity to speak to Lorraine a couple of times. Just a sweetheart of a woman she was. I got to tell you, whether or not you like Ed and Lorraine, the fact is they brought paranormal to the forefront.
Right.
And and you can argue all day long that you didn't like, that I'm not okay. If that's what you want to argue, but they did bring it to the forefront. They let people know that, hey, look, you're not crazy, that what you're going through, that there is explanation for. And that was the door opening to so many people who would have never, ever spoken to anybody about this and who would have kept quiet and dealt with it quietly. So there's the opponents and then there's the proponents, but the fact is they did open the door for so many people to be able to feel comfortable to talk to people. And I will tell you this, I'm friends with John Zaffis, and Johnny's a great guy. And there have been so many times that Ed has done thousands of cases that you never heard of, ever heard of, where he and Lorraine would go out in the middle of the night and help people, and they were very, very giving people. That I do know. They were very giving. So for the people who are, there's always going to be the naysayers. That's fine. But I do believe that Ed and Lorraine did a fantastic job in opening the door and letting people be able to feel comfortable speaking about what's going on in their home.
Yeah, because up to then, the church really didn't talk about it too much, correct?
Really, no, because that was just something that they didn't want people to dabble in. And quite honestly, because of the serious nature of it. So the church was quiet about that kind of stuff. And so there were, now keep in mind, the church always had demonologists. Always had demonologists. That's never ever stopped. And actually, many of demonologists are psychiatrists or priests who have a degree in psychology or psychiatry. So, and they would go out and they would investigate the claims, and then they would bring it back to their ordinary, which is their bishop, and then they would go from there. So, it's interesting. I think some of their cases have been debatable, and that's fine. You can debate all you want. But as I said, I really appreciate what they did by opening up and letting people talk about it, feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right. Now, you said you've had some pretty disturbing ones. We've got another question here from our listeners. Have you ever experienced possession so disturbing that you became vulnerable and a demon shifted to you?
I would say I was vulnerable with the individual who had an incubus case, because when I go in, I'm Bishop Long, the stoic exorcist, but I just absolutely fell in love with this. She was 68 years old. She was like your grandma, and when I got involved with her, she was actually in intensive care because her private area had been ripped and her anal area had been ripped. And the doctor and the family actually contacted me. The doctor said, I have no explanation for this. And so when I got involved with this case, what she went through, I am telling you, it is, and that became emotional for me because I grew to love her and her family. And I worked with her for 3 years. For 5 years, she would describe bed walkers. They're like 3 small 10-pound dogs. They would walk towards her and they would hold her down, and they would violently attack her. Just horrible what they did to her. And so for 3 years, I worked with her. For 5 years, she was assaulted. In 3 years, I had to work with her. The last year of her life, she was no longer being sexually assaulted. And then when she passed away, her family asked me to officiate her funeral.
Wow.
And that was a very hard thing for me to do, because I grew to love her, because she was just, you could not do anything else but love her. And what she went through was pure hell. So I would say that made me vulnerable emotionally.
Gotcha.
And that was difficult. Even today, it's sometimes when I talk about it, and we have a video where we're the only team in the entire world. Understand this, the entire world that has a video of an incubus actually in the bed with its victim. She's very small. She was a very small woman, and you see the bed sheets rise really high and then fall down, and rise really high and then fall down. And then she began to scream that it was attacking her.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Right. I mean, who gets to see this footage? I mean, where does the footage go? Obviously,
is it the church? Yeah, the Vatican?
Yeah, it's property of the church. However, the family has given me permission to share that when I do conferences. So if I'm at paranormal conferences and I talk for educational purposes,
right.
The family has given me permission to show that. And so when I show this video, matter of fact, I have some friends who are very high-ranking officials, you could say, in the Vatican, and so they've even told me that there's people who've actually seen the video there. So this is because this video is so compelling. It is terrible what she went through.
Oh, that's horrible. But this is a good question. So how often, someone typed in here, which kind of goes along with what you were just talking about, how often do demons physically harm people, like cause physical harm? So it's obviously not every case they cause physical harm, correct?
Well, it depends on what the point is, or their intent. Understand, people always ask me, well, why does it always happen? Why do demons
Right.
exist? Well, it's simple. The answer is very simple. And it's fascinating because I've read books after books after books for 41 years, and I've never even seen that answer. Why? And it's all because, we're in God's image. And I'm thinking,
Right.
no, demonic entities attack us because that's the only way they can hurt God.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you hurt God? By hurting the ones he loves most. And so the demonic entity attack people. Well, if you have a demonic infestation, they're there for a reason, and the reason is to cause harm and emotional harm. We got to see King Kong.
Yeah, I got it. Hold on, I got it.
We have to see Kong over here because we've got to see Kong. I mean,
I don't know.
Come on there, Rick.
Come on, Rick.
Let's see King Kong over there, buddy. Come on.
The demon dog is back.
Demon dog. Oh my
Bring him
Yeah, listen, I'm from Kentucky. Well, I have that twang, but my mom and dad, well, they took care of that really, really fast. When the first time I said y'all, my mom looked at me like, "What did you say?"
What'd you say?
and my mom had that look like, you think a demon is bad. I mean, my mom was seriously, I act a fool. She just, and that was it. That was like, oh Lord Jesus. And you start saying the Hail Mary and doing whatever you got to do to make her smile. Because I'm telling you, she didn't play, but yeah, she took care of that Southern twang.
Right.
Yeah. My Kentucky story is I was in Cincinnati one time and I ordered sweet tea and they didn't have sweet tea. So I was like, I'll take a Coke. And then I get down to Kentucky and we stopped off. And the first thing I asked was, y'all have sweet tea? And she's like, oh, yeah, you back in the South, honey. You must have been in Ohio. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah, we got to love that sweet tea, man. Sweet tea.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good question. Someone just typed in. Well, there's actually several good questions. I don't know if we'll have time to get to all of them, folks, but thank you guys for asking questions because you guys are really asking some really cool, interesting things that we were going to hit on, but a little bit deeper. What has the church/Vatican seen in long-term trends, less now, more, or same over time, I guess, as in possessions and
yeah, Pope Benedict was very, very clear when he served as the Pope that he wanted more exorcists because the church has seen a trend and increase. And so I have definitely seen a dramatic increase in demonic infestation. I have not seen an increase in possession. However, I have seen an increase in deliverances, attachments. So that is what I have a master's of education. So for me, statics, statisticians and counting and all this other. I love to look at the trend. I look at the finding out where we go from here to A to B to see how do we get to. So for me, I absolutely without question for my caseload, I can say that demonic infestation has increased dramatically. Mm-hmm. Now when you have an attachment,
right?
When you're dealing with demonic oppression, demonic obsession, remember I was talking about the intellect and will. That's when you have a deliverance. Now, deliverance is not the same thing as a possession, as an exorcism. So many people don't know that deliverance is prayed to remove the attachment. The solemn rite of exorcism is to remove the demonic that's already possessed the body.
Gotcha. Okay. Huh. Interesting.
So yes, for deliverances, I have seen a dramatic increase in deliverance.
And I was going to ask this before I saw that question, because I was about to ask you, it's like how many exorcist, people, are in each state. Has the Vatican? Obviously, you said you've increased, but like, what is y'all strategy? It's like, is there one person in every state? There's like in Georgia or in Kentucky, you're the guy in Kentucky, and there's just one guy in Georgia, or is there multiple, or one at each church?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting because in the New England states, I don't really have a whole lot of cases there. I do have a tremendous amount of cases when you look in the Bible Belt, and which is interesting. You can argue many different reasons for that, but I definitely see an increase within the Midwest and the Bible Belt region. There definitely is an increase there.
Gotcha. So y'all are increasing that. But you let me hold on. We need to know this. Oh, someone keeps asking this about 3 times. So let me ask this real quick before we start wrapping you up, because I know you only got about 4 more minutes up. We all need to know this: how to see the signs of possession in people or yourself to even recognize a demon.
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things that people they always say, well, what about how can you tell if they're mentally ill versus they're truly possessed? Well, a person who is possessed, they will have knowledge of hidden things or future things. They will have superhuman strength. They will speak in unknown languages. So, for example, what I do, I speak the Our Father in Aramaic. So Abundas Maya Makara Shamuk, and then it will say the Our Father backwards
Right.
in Aramaic as a form of mockery. Or in Latin, levitation can occur. The smells, you will always there's a god awful smell. People always smell sulfur. Also, and there's a reason for that. There's a theological reason, because Revelation talks about how in the end times the demonic entities will be thrown into the lake of sulfur, and so Revelation speaks of this. A horrible reaction to religious items. Or relics. I mean, a very violent, and many times they don't even know that I have a relic in my hand or even on my body. But the demonic will say, "Get the relic away from me." And a relic is like a bone from a saint. I have a first-class relic of Saint Francis. There is also prognostication, which is the ability to provide information about people they don't even know. Or retrocognition, which is the ability to tell strangers about their past transgressions. So the demonic will say, if, for example, an exorcist, we will go through the sacrament of reconciliation, confession, prior to performing an exorcism. Because if you don't, then the demonic will say, "I know what you did last night."
Right.
And they will begin to tell you your sins. And so this does occur. Yeah.
Well, before we wrap you up, because I know you've got to get going, I wanted to show you this video real quick. Rick, do you have anything for Bishop real quick before I show him the video?
Thanks for everybody for sending in questions. You did most of our work tonight, but that's
exactly. Which is great, because y'all asked stuff. I was going to ask, but my wife, she was not a believer in all that stuff of ghosts and paranormal possessions, and I've kind of walked her down the road from my point of view as a Baptist and religion and thing like that. And then she went to her work in Ohio to one of their offices, and their office is sealed up, key card only, and all this. And they have motion sensors inside the office. And this is what they caught, and they showed it to her, and they allowed her, and they gave it to her, and we played it on one of our last. But watch here.
Wow.
Now, just keep watching it. It goes to the right. It hangs out in a cubicle. It then moves left, right, up, down, and then pauses like it's doing paperwork or something, and then runs like it's going to look. You can almost see a figure, like feet, and they don't know what or how it is, other than the building is in a cornfield in Ohio, and they say it's supposedly, possibly Indian burial ground around there.
I say it's somebody stuck in limbo, and they can't go to heaven or hell. They've just been stuck in a purgatory of work for eternity. And that's probably
that certainly would be purgatory, no question about that. Working in an office for a long time, but that's a great catch. That's a fantastic catch, and I would say, basically, looking at that it's certainly when a demonic entity is present. A demonic entity doesn't show itself just because. So if a demonic entity is present and it show itself, you are the target of the objects that it moves. So if you're sitting there and a couch is thrown, it's going to be thrown at you or a TV or something, a sharp object. You are the target, and that certainly to me looks like a full body apparition. That's a fantastic catch.
Oh, yeah. And she came on. She was like, "All right, you've made me watch all these ghost adventures. You've talked about demonology. You've talked about your experiences. And she goes, and then I went to work and they gave me this. She goes, "Okay, that's it. I'm on board with this. Let's teach me, show me, whatever." She goes, "Now I'm freaked out."
It really is. I've heard growls before, but one of my first really serious growls was at Bobby Mackey's when we were filming, and I was doing the minor rite of exorcism, and that growl.
You were on the Bobby Mack's?
Yeah, I did the 3 episodes at Bobby Mackey's.
That was you. Okay, I knew. Oh, geez, I just put that together.
Yeah, that was me. And when I was at the well and I was using the incense, and then Zach was over there, and I kept telling him, Zach, don't do that. You need to come over here. And then he went over there, and I was like, I know what's going to happen. And this deep growl, and I wish the recordings picked it up. It didn't do it very. I heard it. I mean, and he came back. He was pale as a ghost. And that show, and look, I don't get paid for Bobby Mackey's or Ghost Adventures, and I'll tell you, that show, they didn't show half of what happened. That it destroyed the guys. I have never seen, and I've known Zach for a while, I have never seen that ever before with them. I mean, when the cameras went off, they couldn't do it. They couldn't continue it. They had to stop because there were some very personal things that were being presented to them during their investigation. It man,
that episode gave me chills when I watched that for the first time when they aired that. That one kind of went over the top, and I was like, they have really tapped into something here.
Deep, very, very. Matter of fact, if you watch all their episodes, even you'll see a deterioration. And I've told Zach a million times, Zach,
he looks horrible now. He looks horrible compared to what he did.
I've told him he does.
But he does. You can see the wear and tear on him.
And I've told him, I said, and I understand he's executive producer and founder and owner, and he's got to push. But I'm like, Zach, there is a price that you're paying. And now, I mean, he's really going through. Poor guy. But he knows my number. I know his number. I contact him often. And so, I know what he's going through. So we'll keep pushing him and try to help him as much as we can.
Wow. Well, hey, we're at 8:45.
Yeah.
I know you got to run. If you got to run, if you want to stay on, great. But I know you had a tight schedule, but I do appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely,
this is probably one of the most intriguing episodes. We'd love to have you back. People are like lined up questions over here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we have night prayer. My community has night prayer at 8:45. But yeah, I just real quick, if they can go to bishopjameslong.com. I got it, bishopjameslong.com. And also, please, folks, let people know about the I teach demonology, angelology, genealogy, and paranormal studies online. 100% of that goes to funding my homeless ministry and single moms ministry. So you can go to bishopjameslong.com, click on the paranormal course link, and it's all online. You learn at your own pace. And as I said, that's how I fund my ministry. And we definitely need some folks signing up.
Well, we definitely will put that on this episode on all our social media, YouTube, and all that to help promote that and get that out there for being such for coming on the show.
Yeah, next time we come on, we'll schedule longer, and we can talk about. And I would love to talk about some of the paranormal experiences and stories that I have, because my God, I just investigations, because I have some that'll just whoo.
Well, I'm a big guy, so I definitely want to put together a series. I even told Rick this one time. I want to kind of put together a series like that. So we definitely be in touch. We'll schedule it further out and put it in your, get your schedule worked out so that way we're not interfering with anything. But thank you. Hey, look, everyone says thanks. Awesome. Thanks. Very cool. We know you got to run, so we'll see. We're going to keep running. We're going to talk a few more things for about 10 minutes. So if you want to, I'll pull you on out and you can sign off and have a good one. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, sir. Wow, lot of freaking information, brother. Overload. That's what I was hoping for, and that's what we got. And I did not realize he was on Ghost Adventures, and I know what episodes he's on. I've seen all the episodes. I've seen him. It's just he was a little bit heavier than when I say my mind is like gone.
When he was talking about the possessions of making bad decisions about staying at the bar too long or doing that.
Right.
I'm like, well, maybe we ought to talk after the show's over. That thing seems to be around all the time, man. I've been doing that for a long time.
Oh my God.
There was a few things I wanted to kind of crack wise on, just, but I didn't want to make them think we were just backing on it. But he was talking about the Ouija board and stuff. But I always have this joke about the Ouija board that is, Parker Brothers like a portal to hell? how can we not have a lot of stuff going on at the Milton Bradley factory or whoever makes it? You know?
Right. And yes, yeah, Lee, you are prone to possessions if you take that. I don't know. No, I think I'm prone to possessions just to hearing half the stuff he was just talking about. I was like, what the heck? I mean, which was great. He dove deep into a lot of stuff that I think it's on a lot of people's minds and mine as well about some of this stuff, about hauntings and possessions and things like that. And
I wonder there's a lot of questions, stuff to think about on this, but I think about stuff like this, like it's always some 63-year-old lady in Mississippi, but how come it's not, the band Slayer or Venom or one of these death metal bands like that?
That's a good question, and we need to write that down. He definitely said he's open to come back on the show, which definitely we're going to line that up and try to do like a serious thing where or maybe he can give us 2 hours and we just knock out a big chunk of one, which I don't like. I'm not a big 2-hour guy, but for this topic, I think we could cover a lot of stuff with a lot of folks.
Well, as long as you got the questions coming in and we got questions, I thought about stuff like that, like some of these bands that, Mayhem,
right?
Venom,
Megadeth, all that, exactly.
Well, I mean, that Cannibal Corpse that really kind of go for that super dark edge, and even bands we've never heard of clearly and stuff like that, So, yeah, that's what I said right there. I don't know how that dude sleeps at night. That's what I said. How do you sleep at night?
Well, it's like he said, when you start messing with this stuff, and getting involved in that, like, Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans and all those guys, and even he said, out of the 29 he's done, they've taken a toll, they've exhausted him, he's been attacked. He hears voices, which I didn't really get to chime off on that when he said, I had to sleep with a fan because if not, I hear screams and I can't sleep. That right there, I was like, are you kidding? I was like, okay, I want to, but we'll definitely circle back to that. I've got that in my notes here. We'll circle back to that when we bring him back on. What he says, Lee said, well, he said, the closer you are to God, the harder demons may come after you. So maybe Slayer's too far gone for demons or care or bother.
Oh, yeah, right. They're like, hey, we're trying to get you guys on the books in here, as recruiters. So
someone said they saw the 2020 Exorcism in the early 90s and it scared me for a month. I mean, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, that episode that he was on, he talked about Bobby Max. If you have not watched it, you can go on demand to the Ghost Adventures and watch that episode. And I'm going to tell you what, that episode was the first one where they got a lot of stuff. And they tapped into a lot of stuff on that episode. So it was I think it was like season 3 or 4, something like that, if I remember right. But it's on demand. You can go watch it because I've been watching them on demand with Liz. Live streaming Exorcism. Actually, somebody did that. Did live streaming Exorcism.
That's another question I kind of thought about. He said, okay, well, we have like, people, like doctors or EMT or whatever there, right? And right. I'm like, what the hell are they thinking? It's like, I just come into work figuring I'd probably, who gets called out to this, and then like, I'm not down with this, man.
Like he said, they bring in medical people who they tell them up front it's their people. They've
I get it, but even so though, I'm just saying that medical person. They're what are they walking into? It's like, oh, we're doing.
They're walking into a war, man. They're walking into a war zone. You got a demon in somebody, and you've got a bishop trying to get rid of it, and that sucker is going to go somewhere or do something to somebody.
Yeah.
Depending on
kind of effed up night at work. If you're an EMT, it's like you're used to scraping up somebody off the road. Next thing you know, you're in the middle of some sort of 12-year-old girl. Speaking Latin.
No, we didn't ask him that, did we? We didn't get a chance to ask it.
There was a lot of questions that come in, so that's why.
Oh yeah, dude. Our board is.
I was curious to see what everybody else had to say.
Oh yeah, no, everybody had great questions. Some of the, very good questions, folks. We want to thank you. Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for. You guys actively participating. Chris Berger, Lee, Westy, Melissa McLeod. And those of you who didn't give StreamYard your permission to show me your name. I don't know, but we
still took your questions though.
We still took your questions. We're an equal opportunist here, you know. But Chris Berger says we should bring the bishop and a Satanist on at the same time. That's like a Maury Povich or something episode,
right?
Or Jerry episode.
That's when the Fat Thor really starts kind of falling apart. That's our get, you know. It's like a steel cage match, you know. Heaven versus hell in the Fat Thor Roundtable podcast steel cage match.
Oh my God! All right, well, hey man, we only got about 3 minutes left. You got anything you want to chime in on or to go over, or let people know what's going on?
I don't know. I just kind of wondered how come, like, you know, Black Sabbath or Slayer has never been having to have an exorcism or anything, and you know, have you ever? I don't know, and like I don't know. I like the question you had about like what parts, you know, geographically, where does this happen? You know, I mean, does it happen out in the Midwest? You know, in Iowa or you know, or places like Montana? You know, or is it more? And
well, he said it's more of the. He says more of the Bible Belt and New England. He said up in New England, which and more of the Bible Belt, I guess, because there's just more people living here, and it's a praying ground. I don't know. I mean, that's just. I mean, we could have dove deep in so many of these questions and answers he had, which I've got notes on all, and I'm gonna go back and listen to make sure I didn't miss anything after this. So when we bring him back on in hopefully a couple of months, you know, we'll definitely dive deep into some of these things.
And remember, everybody who's watching this, if you play this episode backwards, you might hear secret messages in it. So
that's right. You might hear
backwards
in Latin
or backwards masking. So
in Latin, in Latin. But hey, folks, yeah, you can go to bishopjameslong.com. I'm going to put that at the top of this episode so you can click it and go to his page, check him out. Hopefully some people will sign up. I might sign up and go through it, depending on what it costs. I might go through the thing. And then that way, when we bring him back, I'll be like, okay, I've gone through your training. I've gone through all this, and let's just dive back deep into some of these things, questions and answers that we had on the last one. And go
next Halloween, we'll bring him on next. Like a double
feature.
I have 2
That's
hours.
A year. I can't wait a year. I got to get this. I got to get him back on in a few months. We'll figure it out. We'll set the schedule and we'll. But anyway,
he's not too busy exercising.
Well, dude. He has a 17-hour day. He gave me his schedule. He messaged me at 1:00 this morning when he said, "Hey Andy, we're still on," and I was like, just dozing off, and I was like, "Oh crap, yeah." I had not heard from him all day, and I was like, "Yes, we're on." And he said, "Look, I've got a 17-hour day, only got 45 minutes," and he listed his schedule. The dude's been going 17 hours. He will go 17 hours today. And when he got done with us,
he's afraid to sleep. He's afraid to sleep, man. I would be too. I'd be chugging Bangs and damn Red Bulls and Monsters all the time with a rosary in my hand, dude.
I wish we recorded that what we were all talking about in the green room before we came on live, because that was very funny, very interesting.
Yeah, it was funny. He's also, you know.
He's also pro cannabis.
He's very pro cannabis. So you know, holy smoke!
That's great. But hey, folks, go to storefrontier.com/Andy's Room to get you a Fat Thor podcast hoodie because it's getting cold, or shirt like Rick is wearing. Have you tried your hoodie on? Have you tried it on?
I was wearing it yesterday.
Does it feel good? Give us a review.
It's fantastic. I would highly recommend. They make a great Christmas present, to be honest with you.
Yes, they do. They make a great
Christmas present. If you wanna wrap somebody in love for the Christmas holidays, nothing says that you love them more than a Fat Thor podcast hoodie at storefrontier.com/Andy's Room. That's my recommendation, and it keeps demons away. Fat Thor and his big hammer. He's from another world. You know, he's a superhero, so it's blessed with Fat Thor love.
Exactly. That's the best we can do. And by the way, we have uploaded 2 new episodes onto all our platforms through Buzzsprout, which is Amazon Music. There's 15. the list is a mile long. We just uploaded the
Just
Ernie
pick
O'Donnell.
one.
Yeah, just pick one. The Ernie O'Donnell and the one from last week with Eric Holler and Zone 13 Tattoos. Those are up, so you can listen to them anywhere. You listen to them through Alexa.
Nice.
You listen to us through Alexa. That's freaky.
Yeah, you might need to call the bishop up for that. So,
Hey, Chris Berger said he got his shirt. Now you get yours, folks. See? Chris Berger got his. Now you need to get one too. But you can listen to us on. I actually counted them again. 17 platforms now. We're on 17. 17. I can't remember them all. Everywhere there's a podcast, we're there pretty much.
Yeah. iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, Amazon, YouTube. Yeah, just Google us. Just Google us.
It's good. We're on everything. But here's a picture of it. We're on everything. Look,
iHeartRadio. We're on that there. iHeartRadio.
Amazon Music, YouTube, Spreaker, Deezer, all those. So check us out, folks. Hey, this has been a great show. This has been an awesome show. Even folks on here said this has been a great one of our best shows and content-wise. We're going to keep digging down to some more of the stuff like this and other things that I've got some guests I'm lining up and asking them for. So, no, I don't wear triple X. I don't wear triple X. I wear a double X burger, but yes, I'm clearly getting closer to a triple X. I promise.
And he's going to be wearing the Fat Thor snuggie.
Yeah, I'm going to have to wear the snuggie. Yeah, we're going to have to create a snuggie just for me to wear.
Fat Thor snuggie. Nothing says lazy like a Fat Thor snuggie. No motivation. Or you could just turn your robe around backwards and wear it. So whatever.
Hey, folks, go check us out. We'll see you next week, next Thursday. Hopefully same time, 6:30. If not, it's because we've got an awesome guest for you like we did tonight. And it just had to do a different time. So see ya. We'll be back. We're out of here.